Hey YouTube, welcome to the Bubba Continuum. It's December the 16th, 2020. I'm putting up another video because I built myself a shooting bench. And I thought I had it's for rifle shooting. And I thought I had to put up a very brief introduction, hopefully brief, I'll try to make it brief, so you'll understand why I did what I did. I have a platform in my pasture where I shoot at 100 yards, and it's a prone shooting platform, so you lie on your stomach. And it's wonderful. It's got a roof on it and all that. I put up a video where I showed how I built it and put it out there. But it's not good for everything. Certain people have a hard time shooting prone because of health problems. And sometimes you just don't want to shoot prone. Sometimes you want to sit down and just goof off. And also, sometimes you want to shoot at different ranges, and it's kind of a pain to get the tractor out and move this giant platform. So I made a bench that's relatively portable. And one of the reasons I made it was my friend Mike came to visit, my childhood friend Mike, and he likes to shoot. He came down, and I thought he would be all excited about shooting prone, but he has some neck problems. And it turned out that shooting prone was not for him, so he had to shoot at a Home Depot table. And that didn't work out as well as it could have. So it occurred to me that if I have my own bench, I'll be able to move it back and forth much easier than the platform. That's a plus. People who can't shoot prone because of health problems will be able to use it as well. And so it'll be a nice thing to have. As for Mike, I don't want to violate his health privacy rights, but maybe I just will, because then if there's a law called HIPAA that says you can't tell anything, you can't say anything about people's medical problems. I think I'll just violate that, and if Mike wants to sue me, that's okay, because that'd be a nice economic blessing for him and his kids. So Mike has something going on. First of all, he's got a hip that's going funny, and second, he's got a couple of vertebrae in his back, in his neck, that are not right, and he's going in this week to have them fused. My understanding is, if I understand what he told me correctly, my understanding is that he actually damaged his neck for the first time when he was a horse trainer, and he was trying to beat up a midget. He had a jockey that lost a race on purpose. He bet against himself, and Mike was pretty angry. And I don't know whether he injured his neck actually throwing this guy across the grandstand, or whether it was throwing people out of the way trying to get to him. But anyway, he injured his back doing that, and so now he has to get it fixed. And again, I don't know all the facts, but because I'm not a doctor. Actually, I am a doctor. Lawyers these days, we have doctorate degrees. It used to be they called it something else, and now it's Juris Doctor. So I can tell people I have a doctorate. I'm like Joe Biden or Bill Cosby. Anyway, my understanding is that they're going to go in there and put a couple of pieces of rebar in his neck. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I was told that he was going to have to drive to Lowe's on the way to the hospital, which I guess I should be more accurate. It's more like a clinic. It's a little place. He's trying to save some money. His doctor's name is Ramaswamy Vindaloo, Dr. Vindaloo. And my friend Mike lives in New Hampshire, where things are a little lax. The infrastructure is not that great. The taxes are low, and so they can't really afford a real government, and enforcement is not what it could be. So Dr. Vindaloo is not really all that highly trained. The reason he's able to call himself doctor is that he changed his first name legally to doctor. So now he is Dr. Ramaswamy Vindaloo, and I guess they haven't caught up with him. So that's where Mike's going for that. He's going to save a little cash. He does this kind of thing a lot. He goes to Cancun to get his teeth fixed. Apparently, dental work is so cheap there that you can fly to Cancun, have a great time apart from the horrible pain, and fly back and still pay like a third of what you pay in the United States. And I would be a little nervous about it, to tell you the truth. I really would. I mean, I remember this movie called Breaking Free or Busting Loose or Breaking Loose or something like that. Coming of age movie. You can probably tell by the title. Back in the 80s, Tom Cruise was in it. And he went to Mexico with his friends, and one of these friends was like an 11-year-old who for some reason had his own car, and he was taking the car to Mexico, to Tijuana, to have the seats, to have tuck and roll upholstery put in the seats. He was going to save a lot of cash that way, and he insisted on being present when the Mexicans did this to his car, because he had heard that if he didn't watch them do it, they would fill his seats with horse manure. And yeah, it's a bad thing if they put horse manure in your car seats. But it's really bad if they do it to your teeth, so I'm a little leery. Anyway, the bench I want to explain about the bench. I was going to make an L-shaped bench because that's what everybody seems to use. And the more I researched it, the more I found out those things are for people who don't know what they're doing. Those are for like old people who shoot 22s with their grandchildren. You know, you don't want an L-shaped bench. If you want to shoot accurately, you just want a table, a rectangular table, and you don't want it very high. I thought I'd make it nice and high so Mike could sit up straight and it would be nice on his neck. And you don't do that. You don't want a high bench. You want a low bench. And I can tell you the reason for this. I found out that if you want to shoot accurately, which is what I actually want to do, I don't just want to go out there and goof off. If you want to shoot accurately, you have to do what's called recoil management, which means you want to keep your gun aimed at your target while you're shooting. You don't want it to flop around all over the place due to recoil. In order to do this, you have to sort of simulate prone shooting. So you want to lean forward as much as you can so the upper part of your body is sort of, it's like you're simulating a prone posture. And also, you don't want to be beside your rifle. You want to be directly behind it. If you have an L-shaped bench, you're likely to end up sort of beside your rifle, and that's no good. So if you're beside the rifle, or if you're not behind it, you know, with your upper body kind of leaned over, you will have a problem where your muzzle of your gun will wander off every time you shoot, and you won't be able to spot your shots. You won't be able to tell where they're landing, and then you'll have to either get a camera, or you'll have to get somebody to look for you, or you'll have to guess, or you'll have to walk back and forth to the target, or get a drone, or whatever it is they do these days. So people actually know what they're doing. They build rectangular tables, and they keep them down low. So I built a 29.5-inch high table, and I put wheels on it so I could move it around. I'm thinking about fixing it up so I can move it with my utility cart. Haven't done that yet. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you. I guess that's about it. I'm not going to go into tremendous detail because I don't get many views. And I don't really care enough to get exotic cameras and film myself welding and all that stuff. So you're just going to have to make do. The table's really strong. Put a car on it, no problem. It wouldn't be too good on the axles. It's got two little axles for the wheels. I don't think they'd like the weight very much. But other than that, you know, it would be like nothing. You know, the bench wouldn't even notice. So I haven't used it yet. Looking forward to hauling it out to the pasture. I hope you like the video. All right, people, I'll show you a little bit about what I'm doing. This is one of the, let's see, is that a cross member? Yeah, it must be one of the cross members of the top of the table. Anyway, I measured these holes carefully. I'm going to run these screws up through the holes into the wood. The top will be the only wooden part. And, you know, obviously these have to fit all the way through. So what I did was, in case you're wondering, you know, it's hard to make big holes in metal. This is like 1/8 of an inch steel, which I went a little heavy. I could have gone lighter. It's especially hard to drill through the outside because the outside has scale on it, and scale is harder than steel. The inside doesn't tend to get that, I guess, because it's blocked off from oxygen while it's cooling. I don't know. Anyway, what I did was I took a number 35 drill. First, I marked all these things with a scribe. I went down here and I marked exactly 1 inch from the middle. I mean, from the sides, using a scribe and a square. And I just got the lengths. You know, I didn't go crazy and try to get it to within 1/1000th of an inch. I just used a tape measure and marked off the places where I wanted it, where I wanted the holes. And then I drill these holes with a number 35 bit, which is very small because, you know, the hard part about drilling through metal is cutting the center of the hole, because at the center of the hole, the bit's hardly moving, because when things rotate, you know, the outside moves fast and the inside barely moves. So anyway, I used a small bit and I whizzed through these things and made little holes. And then I used the good old unibit. And these things are just spectacular. This one is from Irwin. Ordinarily, I don't trust Irwin bits, but for some reason, this thing just goes and goes and goes. So I just drilled until I got down to like 7/16. And these things also deburr your holes. So I, you know, drilled and deburred. And that left me with the job of drilling a hole on the opposite side. So what I did for that was I stuck this on the drill press and used these holes for guide holes, and went down with a handy-dandy Harbor Freight drill bit. $35 for 115 pieces. You can't beat that. They actually do work. I mean, you know, they're not. It's not a $400 drill set, but on the other hand, it's really neat to use when you don't want to beat up your good drills and, you know, have to end up sharpening them. So I took the drill press and went down, and because I was drilling from I dripped a little bit of oil in, and because I was drilling from the inside on the second hole, you know, the old cheap Harbor Freight drill just went right through because the inside is so soft. So once that was done, it was a simple matter to turn it over and deburr it with the unibit. So that's it. That's what I've done. I'm going to do the other one, and then I've got to do another cross member that goes up the middle. I'm working on my second piece here. I did really well when I got this stuff because it's almost rust-free, but I took the flap wheel and knocked the rust, what little rust there was off of it, and took whatever burrs there were off. And after doing that, I cleaned it off with Windex and paper towels. I don't know if other people do that or not, but I always find it useful to get that crud, that black dust off of there. So now I'm going to put holes in it just like this one. One hopes, God willing. I have my holes drilled on the second piece. My handy Harbor Freight drill bit. The drill press kind of locates everything, and because you have to put so much pressure on it, it holds the bar down so I don't have to worry about it wobbling around. Let's see what happens. No idea what the cutting speed is, can't be bothered. Okay, so no problems there. And I'll just use the drill to deburr it. Well, here's what I got. It's like, I don't know, 45 minutes later, I got all the holes drilled. So you can see how it's going to look. The boards are going to run this way, horizontally, in the picture. Sorry for hitting the camera. And I'm going to weld the legs into the corners. And you can say that's not maybe the most rigid way to do it, but, you know, I don't care because I'm going to have cross members below that. And, I mean, this steel's really heavy. So I think things are going really well. I dropped my pointer. Here's what I have at the moment. I got the center member and the two short side members attached. Now I've got to attach two longer members to complete this thing on the sides, parallel to this one. So that's going to be interesting because I have a 3-foot welding table, and the side pieces are 42.5 inches long, and this whole thing is 46.5 inches long. So I'm not totally sure how to go about that. Right now it's coming out pretty well. One side of it is approximately 3/32 of an inch longer than the other. I think I can live with that. I don't think anybody driving by and seeing the table in the pasture will notice. So I don't know. There's always a way to do things. I'll fix it. Man, what a mess. I'm using 3 vice grips, a Fireball tool square, and I used a machinist square to line it up this way. So I'm hoping it works. Maybe I can show you what I did on the other side. I was not able to use the little tabs from the Fireball tools square. I don't think they're that useful anyway unless you're trying to do really crude work. But then I don't know very much. I think this ought to work. I'll tack it up and see what happens. Don't know if you can see what I've got here, but this thing is tacked on and it appears to be pretty straight, this leg. That member down there that goes across, I got that tacked in 2 places. So what I'm hoping for tomorrow is to tack that far member on. And after that I can assemble the remaining 3 legs and the cross supports that go between them. So I think this will work out. All you have to do is fight with things and use inappropriate tools. I'll use wood clamps again to level a couple of things because there just weren't enough metal clamps of the right kind to do the job. Everything worked out fine, and tomorrow should be quicker. It wasn't bad today, though. All right, tube heads. I did a little bit more work on this thing. As always, I decided to make it more complicated than it had to be. I realized this thing's going to weigh, I guess, over 100 pounds, and I don't really feel like trying to drag it across the pasture when I want to go from, say, 50 yards to 100 yards. So I thought, I'm going to do something hypocritical. I built myself a propane cutting cart a month or 2 ago, and I didn't like the pneumatic wheels on it, you know, the air-filled tires, because they seems like they always go flat because they're always from China. And so I replaced them with solid wheels, and I was really proud of myself. I made some spacers on the lathe and so forth and fit my new wheels on it. And then I had these tires that I was going to take to the dump because I didn't know what to do with them. And I thought maybe I would take the little inner tubes out of them and use them for pool toys, or, you know, to rest my head while I'm watching TV, or who knows. Well, I started looking at this and I thought, why don't I put some wheels on it? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some wheels on one end of it. In order to do that, I need an axle on each side. Well, I don't want to use, it's going to be like a 5/8 inch bar, that the axle is going to have to be 5/8 inch in diameter. I don't want to have to go out and dig up a 5/8 inch bar. I don't want to drive halfway to Georgia. And it seems like a waste of money because I've got plenty of stuff lying around the shop. So what I did was I found myself some 3/4 inch bar, and I cut it down. I found two pieces of unrelated steel, and I cut them down, and I drilled holes in my legs, and I jammed these things through here. So here's what this looks like. Okay, so I'm going to weld that, obviously, and it's going to look like that. There's a little shoulder there that I can put the weld on, and then I'm going to put a washer on it. And there's a hole for a cotter pin, and my wheels are going to go on that. And it should be pretty sturdy. I'm not worried about, you know, it's a kind of a weird thing to do, not to have a solid axle. It's going to try to pull the legs apart. But I'm going to have members down here holding the legs together anyway, so I don't care. Things are going great. I didn't put this on the I didn't film myself using the lathe because, you know, let's face it, I get 23 visits on a good video, so it's a lot of bother for 23 people. But you'll see the final product. Well, the welding is pretty much done. In fact, it is done, except it's possible that I might put something over on that end to connect to the rear end of my utility cart so I can drag this thing around. Can't remember everything I said about it. As I probably said earlier, I decided to put wheels on one side. Oh yeah, I think I talked about that. So there they are. They're just mocked up. They're not held in with cotter pins or anything. It's ready now for the top. Things came out really well. I wish I could have, you know, shown shots of welding and talked more about the construction, but I'll tell you what, I just wanted to get it over with. I think it's going to be great. It's very low. I'll stand next to it so you can see what I'm talking about. So, actually, you could use it pretty comfortably as a bench to sit on, a picnic bench. And that may seem to be awfully low for a shooting bench, but I measured it, and the top when I'm done is going to be about 29.5 inches off the ground, and that's really just about perfect to get you a nice horizontal angle so your body leans into the rifle and controls the recoil. I think it's perfect. I hope so. I got a lot of expert advice. Really happy with the way it worked out. I've got to get a new welding table. This is the first time I ever had to stand inside something I was welding at. The first time I ever made something that big. I had to take it off the table when I finally got it together and move it around, you know, this way and that way so I could weld various things while I sat or stood inside it. So this is about it. The next thing I'm going to do, I believe I will paint it. I will apply the truck bed coating, and once that's done, then I can slap some wood on it. I got some wood today, and I also decided to buy water seal, you know, the stuff they put on decks. I guess water seal's a brand name. I bought some kind of deck sealer, the cheap kind, and I plan to stick that on it. And if that doesn't work out, then I can always sand it and paint over it. I don't know how well the boards are going to level up with each other when I put them on this thing. If they don't work out well, I got plenty of hand planes and I got a sander. So not a big deal. Well, YouTube, things are going extremely well. This is the frame all pretty much finished, except I need to put some feet on it. These ends over here are going to be resting on sand, and they're hollow, and I don't want them to sink in. So I plan to put some feet on them, which I just made. I had to cut these out with plasma because I didn't have the right size bar. It's really neat to have the right tool around when you need it instead of having to drive 50 miles to buy something. So everything is all set. I've got the wood cut up. Maybe you can see it in the background leaning on the garage. The workshop, not the garage. I keep calling it a garage. So I plan to slap some, wood sealer on that and get these feet on. And unfortunately, I painted it and forgot about the feet. So I'm going to have to grind off some of that paint and weld. And there's a little bit of paint on the inside. I thought that was a bright idea. I thought if I put a little paint on the inside, it would cause the feet to rust, the legs to rust slower. So when I weld this thing, there's going to be a god-awful stink because that paint's going to burn. Nonetheless, very happy. It came out much better than I won't say better than I thought, but I'll just say that I've had some problems in the past, and I'm glad I didn't have them this time around. Well, YouTube, the work is done. This thing is finished. I may polish it up a little bit and do a few extra things to it. I was going to paint the top of it, but now I'm inclined not to. I took that sealant stuff and put it on all around it, both sides. And I don't know, it seems like this surface may have a little bit more grip to it than paint. Maybe this will work. If it starts to get mildewed and nasty, then I guess I can paint it. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you how it's built. I got my 5/16 lag screws on there that I stuck through, and that just came out very nicely. This board is a little warped. I might want to replace it later on. I might have an OCD fit and replace that. But basically, it went together really nicely. Now I'm wondering how I'm going to lift it, because I have to pick this end up and rotate it over onto the wheels. So that'll be fun. I thought when this thing was built it would be like 85, 90 pounds. But these pieces of wood, they're pressure treated, and I don't know how pressure treating works. I guess they leave it soaked with whatever the solution is that they pump into it, because it's always wet and very heavy. So this thing weighs a lot. I mean, this thing is not light at all. So I'll turn it over and show you the top. And if that doesn't happen, it means I'm in the emergency room. Well, here it is. I managed to lift it without breaking anything that I really need. Seems relatively sturdy. Probably strong enough to hold up a rifle and some ammunition and some kind of insulated cup. I'm probably going to sand off these edges and maybe sand the top a little bit, but basically this is it. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to using it. It'll be fantastic. Now I got to figure out how to get it to the pasture.